Just go ahead.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have some more people join us, but in the interest of staying on, being respectful of everybody's schedules and time, we'll get started. So, good afternoon. My name is Erin Kelly, and I'm the Executive Director of Preservation Massachusetts, and I want to welcome you to Preservation Conversations. Since 2020, these conversations have provided an opportunity for learning and discussing certain preservation topics. If this is your first time joining us, welcome, but there are just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We ask that you please keep yourself muted at all times to cut down on background noise and distractions to our speakers. If during the presentation you have any questions or comments, please use the chat feature, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible after the presentations and as time allows today. And please be advised that this presentation is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube account. And if you prefer not to be visible, then we ask that you please turn your camera off. So let's get started. As preservationists, we all know the importance of historic trades and tradespeople. According to a report released by the Campaign for Historic Trades, the rehabilitation of existing buildings represents nearly $85 billion each year. And trades experts say that there are severe shortages across the range of historic trade professions and training programs. I apologize. My sentence there on my notes completely did not make sense. Trades experts say there is a shortage across a range of trade professions, and training programs not only improve work quality, but also provide pathways to secure employment for trainees and assist owners of historic properties in finding capable workers. So today we are joined by special guest speakers, Matt Chapman and Amy Glowacki from the Springfield Armory National Historic Site, who will discuss their recent success with the Traditional Trades Advancement Internship Program. Amy, a career National Park Service employee, is the program manager for interpretation and education at Springfield Armory National Historic Site and Coltsville National Historic Park. Much of her career has focused on youth employment and volunteer engagement. Matt Chapman comes to the National Park Service over a year ago from the Department of Defense, working as a chief in the U.S. Air Force, overseeing engineering and resources. As the Facilities and Resource Program Manager and Chief for the Springfield Armory, he ensures all the buildings and historic artifacts are both secured and taken care of in the best possible way. His staff at the Armory oversees all the landscape and structures, as well as content on a daily basis. So Amy and Matt, thank you so very much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Erin, and thanks to everybody else for joining us. I'm going to lead us off, and then I will pass it off to Matt. So the National Park Service, we have a history of engaging our youth from local communities. So we follow a progressive approach. So we meet young people where they are, and we engage in ways to promote sharing back into the communities. That's our philosophy, and that's what we work towards. So currently, I'm detailing at Lowell National Historical Park in the eastern part of the state. And I worked here 20 years ago in youth programs, helping to establish the trade skills program, where we were working with local technical high schools. So it's rewarding to actually return and see this vision come to fruition, especially when we're trying to do some of the similar things at Springfield. So I'm going to share just a little bit of an experience that I had on one of my first days back. On my first day, well, what really was my first day back here, I ran into Rich. And Rich is the HVAC mechanical supervisor. And I was watching Rich trying to hire new staff, and he's talking about different projects that we're doing with turning off the HVAC and switching from heat to cooling for the summer, and how that's working with other projects that are going on. And he's talking about the return routes and all the different things that I didn't understand, but was just like blowing me away to hear him talk. Because I remember Rich, who graduated from Greater Lowell Technical High School, when he served his co-op here. And he became a seasonal electrician and his journeyman. And now he's a permanent staff member. And I'm watching him also mentor Carter, who's a Greater Lowell Technical High School co-op student, who's now a permanent HVAC specialist for this park. And that progression was all part of a vision that started here way back 15 years ago to look at how we work with students, to work alongside trades professionals to help foster that work, not only in the trades, but in working in historic preservation and working on historic buildings and building those skills. So that was our dream, to fill these future vacancies. And it actually happened. And Rich and now Carter are becoming leaders in not only here at our park, but for the National Park Service. So that's what we try to do. And to see that come to fruition was just awesome. And so at the Armory, we're seeking to engage with our direct neighbors, so the students of Springfield Technical Community College. So we're trying to offer a diversity of hands-on experiences in the historic resources, working along the experts while developing that network of experienced craftspeople in the trade. So not just with our National Park Service network, but looking out beyond. Working with STIC and the people in the local community who are involved in historic preservation. So we are also trying to build not only our relationship with STIC, but we're looking to form a relationship with Putnam Technical High School. And last year we had summer enrichment program that we were working on local projects with local students from Camp Atwater. And we'd like to foster that relationship right on into the community college, into summer jobs working in our resources. So, and right now we have a project going on where we're working on updating an exhibit in our museum, and we're working with Putnam Technical High School to have help with some carpentry to craft rifle boxes that will be in the entranceway. So just looking for creative ways to engage their skills. We also work closely with the National Park Service Historic Preservation Training Center, or HPTC, which is in Frederick, Maryland. And HPTC, the trade staff, they help preserve the historic resources of all the National Park Service sites. And so one initiative that we're working on with HPTC is developing that next generation of trade stewards through the Traditional Trades Advancement Program. And I can actually, when Matt's presenting, I'll put the link in the chat for you. But the TTAP program, it was created in 2018 to bolster and expand its capacity to undertake preservation projects at parks across the country. So it's providing that hands-on preservation trade skills training to young people through a 20-week experience. And those trainees, they receive project-based opportunities to learn carpentry, wood crafting, finishing, masonry, metalworking, window restoration. And that's while working, learning, and earning alongside NPS staff. One thing that I also saw when I was here thinking of HPTC, here in Lowell, they just had a window historic preservation session led by HPTC, and they were doing some of the gatehouse windows, which are actually owned by DCR, but it was very interesting to see the different phases of all the work that was being done, from the refinishing, the glazing, and all the different pieces that were happening with people across the country came here to work on that project just a few weeks ago. So in Springfield, back to Springfield, sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place, but back in Springfield, we're exploring a model of collaboration to create that range of experiences beyond what we offer at the Armory. So looking at the Pioneer Valley or the Connecticut River Valley with that history of precision manufacturing and resources that are in need of preservation assistance. So we're hoping to foster that passionate cadre of skilled practicing historic preservationists. And so we are very excited. This year, we'll be hosting 2 5-month interns through the HTPC Traditional Trades Advancement Program, or TTAP. And last year, we also hosted 2 in landscape maintenance and HVAC. And Matt's the one, he's the expert on that program on the ground in Springfield. So I want to pass that over to Matt to tell us a little bit about his work with the students.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. So it's last year was the first year we really kicked it off big, and we were I was lucky enough to run that here on the ground with the Springfield Armory. So what we did is we set up collaborative relationships with the Springfield Technical Community College, or STCC, to start out. Because we're on the same campus, it just made sense to work with the local instructors and / deans of those those different programs to get students that would most get the most bang for their buck working on the actual campus that we were at. And we did a lot of collaboration with the actual school. So we had the two opportunities, one in HVAC, one in landscape. We are currently, I'm also working with other colleges like UMass and a couple other ones to see if potentially there's some opportunities for them to get involved in this, just so we can broaden our ability to get the best and the brightest interns that we can get in here who see a path in their career or / in the park service, not just based on the college that we're at now, because limited resources in manpower. But what we were able to do last year with our current two interns we had is we were able to travel to other national parks. We didn't just stay here at the Springfield Armory. We were able to broaden their interns' understanding and breadth of the program and the opportunities the park has. So we went to Boston several times. We did walk-arounds on the Boston Park Service. We let them work locally for a day in the Boston HVAC technician actually worked with the HVAC technicians in the Boston area for a day. Our landscape got to go to see the monuments and how they landscape those and how the different systems were used and how they were worked and what it took to run those kind of systems that we might not have at our resource here because we're smaller and we're a single park. We also look at right now potentially going to the Statue of Liberty. I have some good connections and having our interns go there for a day or 2 days and work in that situation, which is completely different than what we have here. We also have the trail system that runs down Connecticut up through here, that our interns may have nothing to do with HVAC or / landscape, but we want to allow them the opportunity because they are coming here for an internship, specifically labeled HVAC and landscape, but it's the National Park Service and there's a lot more to us than just those two internships. And when they come to us, we want to make sure they're getting that full experience and what it means to be in the Park Service, and take care of the resources and the historic structures that we have here and how important that is going forward, that we keep everything up and running. Last year, just to go over, and the other thing too is the Mass Parks as well, the Quabbin Reservoir. We have a site out at the Quabbin Reservoir that has an attachment to the Springfield Armory. So we spent some time out there cleaning up around our site, introducing them to the Mass Park Rangers and how that site affects this site. So it's just not come to the Armory, spend the day here and go home at night. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and the experience I think shows that. And the kids that are going through this with the young adults are not just leaving here working on HVAC all day. They're leaving here with a bigger experience that they got that just doesn't straight go to their craft that they're trying to do, but gives them the whole picture. So last year, just to go over the two interns we had last year, the HVAC intern, we were able to work a split week schedule with him between the Armory and the college due to the fact that we have two single buildings that have semi-complex HVAC systems, but they're not terrible. And I wanted to make sure that he was actively employed the whole time he was here. So the college has well over 15 buildings. They have numerous different types of HVAC systems. They have a full staff of HVAC on site. So he actually got to do 3 days a week as a apprentice working with the college HVAC staff, doing inspections, doing repairs, doing all sorts of general maintenance to the systems, which looks great on his resume. He's in his second year, actually graduates this year from the HVAC program. He's already got a job based on letters of recommendation that I've written and the college have written for him. So truly a good success story. He also did a ton of stuff offsite. We were able to go to the MGM Springfield, which is located in Springfield, and I was able to work a day there where he was able to see behind the scenes of the MGM Springfield and the elaborate system they have there, and how that worked. We were able to go to a couple military bases that are local because I have some good connections there, and he was able to see how they do their HVAC and how their systems run and how it affects the time systems and how you can run computer systems to run different HVAC. So a ton of good stuff in his actual internship career field, above and beyond the national park. And so that was kind of his area when we were here. The landscape, he worked mostly at the Armory. It just made sense. We have 13 plus acres of historic site that we had a lot of stuff going on. We planted over 23 trees last year with him on as an intern. We also were able to go ahead and revamp a sorry, I'm reading my notes. A pollinator field that we were not doing too good on. So we were able to mow that down, reculture it, and then go ahead and lay down all the necessary seed and stuff. So now we have a 7-year plan on a pollinator field that he actually designed, did a PowerPoint, presented it to the staff here, and used it as part of his senior year project through us, through the college. So that was amazing for us. It was great for him, gave him a lot of good speech experience. And again, he was able to present it to us and our superintendent, as well as to the college itself. So that was excellent. The nice thing about having the college students here go through the program is they are on site, and the local landscape program has a greenhouse on site. They have a professor on site. So we do a lot of collaborative stuff with him, potentially taking his class and bringing him down to the fields that we have and back and forth. So that did help quite a bit, but I don't think that's a game changer for anybody. I want anybody who wants to apply to these positions, no matter where you go, to apply. When I look at the resumes, I look at the absolute best fit, who's going to gain the most out of this, both as a national park historic value / as in their potential internship and what that brings to them as well. Because we get applications from all over the country. So that doesn't, not being a college student here locally is not a factor for me at all. So those explain those two. Let's see, other than that, the big push from our side, I think, is that we are a national park, and we want our interns to be involved in as many things and get the full experience on the day-to-day operation, including the museum, including talking to the public, including their prospective career fields as well, as the big picture. So that's kind of the way I run that program. It's not just you're here, you're HVAC, see you later, go home. It's no, you're here, you're working for the park, and this is everything we can do for the public. That's all I got. Hopefully that's good.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, Matt. And thank you very much, Amy. Amy, I loved your story about going back to Lowell and talking with 15 years later and seeing somebody who was a former student now actively training the next generation and the next generation of preservation tradespeople. I'm curious. I'm really curious, both from your perspective, what do you, Matt, you're saying you'll take, you really look for like the best fit for these internships. And it sounds like it's so much more than just, you're going to do this one job, but you really try to give them a really good, full bore experience of what the National Park Service is all about. What ultimately do you hope that your interns take away from this, that they, we have the example of the person who stayed on in Lowell, and now he's training the next generation of HVACs. But do you hope that they continue to work with historic buildings, or what do you really hope that your interns take away from their experience with this program?
That's a question. So I've been in youth programs for 25 years, and not everybody can work for the National Park Service in the end. But the goal behind that is we're developing stewards and people who care for our resources. And so we developed that, as Matt was talking about, developing that whole person. So that whole curus personalis kind of thing, that we're developing not just people who are going to work on our systems, but they're going to be citizens of our communities and of our planet. And so we're developed that whole person. So even if we're not ultimately leading to a job in the National Park Service, they're still going to be working in the community in other ways. And to be able to share the values of the Park Service, I think for me, that's one of the most important things that we can do, is to create strong people and foster our values.
Yeah, and I would piggyback off what Amy said. Everything she just said, and then we, we would love to have everybody, wear the arrowhead and be a park ranger if that's what they want in their future. But that doesn't always work out, and the jobs are tough to get sometimes. And generally they are low fruit jobs that end up being something potentially high fruit later in your career. But we want them to have that total experience and know that it's just not a building. The Springfield Armory is just not that building. There's more to it. It's the historic, what happened here and how it affected Springfield, how it affected the United States, how it affected the local area, and the effects we're still having on the local area, and the things that we're bringing and then the unique structures and the unique grounds we have around here. So we really try to make sure that the interns, even our volunteers, it's kind of like just the way we work here. It doesn't matter if you're an intern, a volunteer, or an employee. 101 National Park Services, you work for the National Park Service first, and this is everything that we do and everything that we have touch our hands on, and this is how it all works together. Not you're an HVAC intern and here's an air conditioner. It doesn't work that way. So
that so I'm taking notes. Those are such great sound bites, but I think that really speaks to I think something that we, as in the the history field and preservationist, I think we get, but sometimes general public, you see, oh, it's the historic site, Springfield, the Park Service, it's this one site, it's this building, that's it. Whereas we're really what Amy and Matt, you were saying, is you're really trying to, I love the phrase developing stewards, and the whole person to be appreciative, and especially being in Massachusetts, we're surrounded by so much history, and also understanding, as you said, Matt, how that impacted the areas, not just 150 years ago, but it's currently, we're still dealing with those ramifications. So very, very well said. We do have a question, and if anyone else has questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Do any of the National Park Service sites from Eastern Massachusetts offer these types of programs? And are there similar programs for other historic trades, like carpentry, metalwork, etc.? Is there anything similar in Eastern Mass?
So in the National Park Service sites, so yes, in terms of the traditional trades advancement program is service wide. So there are other parks that do host them. Youth programs. So yes, Boston National Historical Park has a very strong youth engagement, youth employment program. Lowell, obviously I've already talked about Lowell has one, but a lot of the parks are working towards that and being able to offer that. In New York City, there is the Stephen T. Mather High School, which is it's a whole curriculum that is a partnership with the National Park Service and New York City for hands-on masonry, carpentry, landscape management, that's designed to develop those next generation craftspeople, and field placements include working along preservationists in the field, many of them in the National Park Service. So there's a lot of different types of trades programs that are out there, and there's a lot of different local partner crews that are created through youth engagement partners, such as the Student Conservation Association or Conservation Legacy or Stewards, and they also support the traditional trades advancement program, but they have opportunities to have higher level skills, learning historic preservation crafts out in the fields at different park sites. So parks might have one project, like, oh, we need some work with some stonework, or we have some brickwork, and parks can ask for help with those too. And I'll stop talking and let Matt talk. There's other things coming down the pike with the Inflation Reduction Act. We're expecting a lot of work to be done, and there's maintenance action teams which focus around youth being part of that equation, youth crews going to different parks to accomplish different preservation tasks.
Yeah, and I'm not in the know as much about the other parks because I live and breathe here in Springfield. But I do have a lot of counterparts at other parks that are facility resource program managers like myself, and I know that Boston, like Amy said, has a lot of opportunities. They're out there. I think potentially, if you live in a certain area and you're looking for a position or / an internship, you should reach out to the local national park and find out what their opportunities are, and they should be able to give you the Conservation Legacy, the TTAP programs, and all the stuff that we have that we use to allow us to bring those people in. They're out there. You just have to do a little research.
Speaking about, you spoke to your community, the connections that you've built and maintained with the Springfield Technical Community College, but also technical high schools in Springfield. Do you see a potential to grow, like on a statewide level? Do you see there a potential to have stronger trades, like a stronger preservation trades in vocational schools. I know I know there's been a lot of shift, especially in the past couple of years, people looking at vocational schools, and looking at the need for trades, the need for tradespeople, for craftspeople. Do you think there's an opportunity to grow these sort of relationships on a statewide level with like a vocational curriculum that could possibly help meet the gap that we as preservationists know exists in the preservation trades? Do you think there's a connection that could possibly be made or should be explored further?
Can I say yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's something that, so I see somebody else just popped up in the chat about Salem Maritime and Saugus. They have the First Jobs program, which is, I'm sorry I didn't mention them earlier. They have a very strong trades program where students working at their park are doing a lot of projects that are very trades focused, and leadership development as well. I'm familiar with a lot of these programs because I had an opportunity to work with youth from a lot of these different parks to take them on. I got to travel to different national parks during the summer to see the different types of careers that are available and how we're living the mission every day, and trying to develop a well-rounded students who understand the bigger vision of preservation, resource protection, conservation versus youth, all these different pieces. So thinking about that on a statewide and the need for trades and how do we do that? I don't know how we do it, but there's definitely a need for that. And a few years ago, and that was just in the beginning of the pandemic, we held a brainstorming session with local historic preservationists, and we invited Preservation Mass was very involved with helping us get that off the ground and try that, how we could get people together to talk about skills that are needed, projects that are out there, sites that could host. And our true vision, if I'm going to be totally honest here, is we would love to work with the local technical colleges. By saying local, I say Springfield, but there's technical colleges or technical high schools throughout the state. How do we look at places like Springfield Technical Community College is that next step? So in New York City, they did a technical high school at the Stephen T. Mather Arts and Crafts High School. But where do the students go after that? What's the next step? And we see Springfield is like a logical next step for students across the state who are looking for that next step. And I know that's not talking about curriculum development and how we do that, but that's part of the piece. And that's sort of a long-term vision, is how do we take those students who have those technical high schools and create that pathway. So it's a little bit different than the question you asked per se, but it's our vision.
And I don't have locally I'm involved with a couple different colleges, and we have what's like an energy system technology board that we are involved with the colleges and a couple of the schools, where we bring in local companies and the presidents of these companies, and we talk about HVAC and how this, where are they pulling their students from, and how's it affecting their business, and what's the need, and all this stuff to help the colleges kind of figure out if they're doing the right thing with the education program. And the big census is that we don't have enough technical style positions out there being filled. There's not enough people leaving college going to these. There's too many openings. So a lot of these small businesses are 1- and 2-man shows that really want to be 5-man shows, but they're missing 3 people because there's not enough people out there to take the positions. So I know it's out there. I know that the colleges are thinking about that, and the high schools are thinking about that. Again, they've got to do a little better advertising, I guess, to get the kids to think that's the way they need to go. So, but it's out there.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, you're right. We know the needs out there. We just got to get train the people and fill the positions. And I know that some of our statewide counterparts in northern New England, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, they are all working collaboratively on it's the Northeast Regional Initiative for Preservation Trades. And I think they've received some grant funding, and they were really trying to do an analysis of, northern tier New England and New York about preservation trades. And there's a big report that just came out at the end of March. And I thought that was actually, it was one of our circuit riders was involved with that, and she forwarded that information to us. But we know that this is a problem that exists not just in Massachusetts, but it's, you know, all across the country, and there definitely is a need. This is, you know, amazing that the Park Service has, you know, has these opportunities, is providing these opportunities and these trainings. Do you really see this as, you know, do you see this traditional trades advancement program as kind of like a model that perhaps like other state agencies, like, you know, like a DCR or something like that, like you have these, you know, entities that own and they maintain and responsible for a lot of, you know, a lot of spaces, and a lot of that being historic buildings and landscapes. Do you think this is something that you'd like to see perhaps other agencies, you know, take on and try to build on and like have a similar program modeled on yours?
I think it's a great model, and part of it is it's scalable in terms of if it has funding, that we're using a youth partner, Conservation Legacy, which will handle all the hiring and all the recruitment. We recruit locally, but you know, there's all that support, and it's the parks or the sites that have the projects, which if they have staff that's able to support that, it's definitely scalable because it's not a complicated format. It's bringing people together and getting the people with the right skills in the right place.
Yeah. And what we didn't even talk about, which is normally on an intern's radar, is that it's a paid position. Our internships are paid. So they're here for this full time, and they're getting a regular paycheck, and they're getting paid, and they're getting some kind of acknowledgement that they're working for the park system, which counts towards it potentially later they want to look at a park position. So they're not, you know, you're here for 3 months and you're on your own dime. It's a summer job or an internship that allows you to gain more skill / more knowledge and potentially help you with your career going forward. It help us as well as, you know, what we're trying to get accomplished. So and that's been the key originally when I was talking to some of the college kids and some of the college fairs, because I go to a couple of local fairs when they have them, so we can talk to the kids. And the first thing out of my mouth is, well, is it a paid internship? I can't afford to spend 3 months and not get paid. So it's a point, and I think that's one thing that the park did really well when they decided to do these internships through Conservation Legacy and through these programs, is that they made sure that the interns were getting taken care of for the whole duration of their internship, which is huge.
And part of that too, that's a really good point, Matt. Some problems we ran into though is that we're not paying as much as other positions that they might be able to get into the field. But where we tried to draw leverage, we were looking for students who were interested in doing some painting for us, and we weren't able to fill the position. But we were talking with the local union, and I'm sorry, I don't have the information of which it was, but it was out of Worcester, and they were actually looking at it. If we could work together to recruit students, this could be something that gives them a leg up for the application to get into the train. And I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this, but the in line to be able part of the union training program that's highly competitive and highly sought after. But our program could offer a pre-experience that would give that experience that might be enough for advanced consideration for someone entering a program.
What are you seeing in terms of, you know, when you're saying students, and I think of students and it's like, oh gosh, there's so much, you know, younger than me, but I know that, especially in historic preservation, sometimes people come to it at, you know, at different, you know, different times in their lives. Are you seeing that primarily you're working with, you know, like high school and college age kids? Are you seeing people that are a little bit older, or what's kind of the demographic that you're seeing that are coming into these internship programs?
As far as what we've seen here in Springfield, it's across the board. My HVAC intern last year was 19 years old. My landscape was 27. So they're everywhere. It really depends on where they are in their career and their life and what they're trying to get out of it. They both did amazing jobs for us, and they both are pushing on. Again, one of them's got a job already set up, and the other one I think is getting his master's in landscape architect or something like that. But anyway, they're doing really well. But there hasn't been, and I haven't been. I know when I look at their resumes, I don't really look at any of that stuff. I kind of look at the the meat and potatoes of the resumes and what they're trying to get out of it before we do the interviews. But yeah, I've had interviews or resumes with people that are 30 years old, and there's some caps on the internships on how old you can be. But it's been a breadth of it across the board, you know.
And the cap is very open, so applicants must be between 18 and 30 years of age up to their 31st birthday. And for veterans, which is another category of people that we seek to engage actively, are veterans. They can be up to 35 years old. And that's just in terms of we are able to fund them under youth program monies for the National Park Service or federal funding.
So this has been, I think there's a lot of this. It's this conversation I think is really driven home that it's really, and I say this all the time, like in our work, it's like, it's not about preservation, is about people. It really is. It's about people that, you know, that use the, the people that are behind the advocacy efforts, the people that are actually doing the preservation projects, the people that are utilizing, that are visiting historic sites, that are using historic rehabilitated sites. It's all about people. And I think what this conversation's really helped to drive home is that it's, you know, you have this wonderful internship program that is looking to train the next generation of preservation tradespeople. They come in and they learn and experience on these historic sites, but it's really about really, you know, I love that phrase, developing the whole person, developing stewards. So you're having somebody that's coming out with, tapping into that appreciation for historic sites and just, you know, hit everything that surrounds us all the time. And this is something that, we say youth engagement. And I think, you know, looking at how do we get into, and I know it's difficult to get into curriculums, and especially with schools, but, you know, how can you engage, you know, like, you know, youth and younger kids and get them interested, and to be able to say like, oh, wow, I could actually do an internship on this historic site in 5 years when I'm, you know, out of high school. Do you guys have any thoughts about engaging, even like younger kids?
So yes, I have thoughts about engaging younger kids. I mean, we do all kinds of things for Pathways, but I'll give you an example from Springfield, what we did last year to try to actively engage students from the local neighborhood and specifically from Putnam Technical High School. And we were approached if we would like to do a project at Camp Atwater, which is out in near Worcester. But it's a traditionally summer camp for African Americans or Black children. And we wanted to work with local students who had connections to our local community. And there were projects that they were working on, and we weren't directly involved with those projects, but we hosted those students at Springfield to talk about, they came and they got to view the pollinator field and what we're trying to do for climate friendly initiatives. So these are other types of things that can come in. What were we doing to actively engage the students in their own community? And so it was an employment program. So they were actually paid for their work and being introduced to the National Park Service and potential career opportunities. So that's high school students, not here in Lowell or in Springfield, but in Lowell. So students come here when they're in school. Actually, in Springfield too, there are ways where we invite them back to come to different summer camps where they can spend a week on the site. And while they're here, while the summer camp might be focusing on writing and conservation, they get to immerse themselves in the resource, and they're going to meet other staff while they're here and learn about, you know, potential opportunities to be a volunteer or to come back with their parents and visit. And then eventually seeing that there are opportunities. We have internships where students from high schools and colleges can work with us, and not necessarily in trades, but in other research projects and things of that nature. So it's sort of a ladder of engagement where we just offer different opportunities where we hope to be able to bring people back to find that next excitement. So if they come and have a great time, how do we get them to come back and to see deeper opportunities?
I'm muted. I
Oh,
like
good.
that phrase, ladder of engagement. Matt,
Yeah, I
any
don't have,
thoughts?
I mean, I don't have a lot as far as the local. I mean, we obviously, and it's under Amy's preview is that we have a lot of local schools that come here and they do tours, and we offer it to anybody who wants to come here. We have military organizations that come here and do tours. I do know that a few of the events she talked about at Atwater and stuff, our interns that we had on site, that was it. That was our interns actually spent time out at that camp, and they were able to go out there and help these kids do some of this training or slash some of this repairs. And I also sent my maintenance staff, and they got a ton out of it. The interns came back, and it was some of the best experiences they had being able to work with the youth and some of the stuff they're dealing with, and just being out there. And they felt the pride of kind of knowing what they're doing as an intern, but wearing their park ranger t-shirt. And it was a big deal. We came back, we talked about it, but it's amazing. And I hope there's more outreach stuff like that. I know we're really pressing for it. We have big ties to the city of West Springfield as well. We're part of we do have a booth at the Big E. We're there for the full term. We go to the local meetings for both the city of Springfield and West Springfield, and try to get involved in the pancake breakfast. Everything they do. The Park Service in Springfield is generally involved in it, trying to promote how we can help the community in some of these schools and getting them more aware of what we have here. That isn't just a building with a museum, but there's more to it.
That's so true. And it seems like the at both Springfield and then Lowell and just so many of the national parks in Massachusetts, just community engagement being out and being really visible. Are there opportunities or ways that organizations like Preservation Massachusetts can be of more assistance to the Park Service in your efforts? I mean, beyond just advertising these fabulous internship programs, having you come and talk about the impact of what these internship programs can do, not just for the Park Service, but for your interns themselves. Is there anything else that you can that you would like to see us, or like a statewide organization or like local preservation partners, what we can do to be more supportive and helpful to the Park Service in your efforts?
I'd like to say that you already are very supportive. So we've had a great
Well, thank you.
relationship with some of your cohorts, and connecting our staff with people actively engaged in historic preservation and providing those opportunities for our interns to be able to experience a greater variety of programs, but also developing their network would be, I mean, it's not that you haven't done that, but it's something like having these webinars and these connections where we can come together as a community. Those are very helpful.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I'd say the biggest thing I found that's helping these interns, and one of the first things I did is I built good relationships with all the local businesses or slash schools I felt had similar views and similar goals that we had, and allowed these interns and even our staff will do site visits to the different areas so we get a good feel. But having that ability and having those connections and those collaborative projects, it helps a lot. So anything that you guys can do above and beyond what you're already doing, that hey, there's going to be this going on, or let's send an email to Amy or Matt. Potentially it's a day that we can go and help out or slash learn something new. That's the kind of stuff we want to see, and it gets us out there to the public. I don't know how many times I've stopped at a gas station, someone says there's a park around here because I've got a ranger badge on. I'm in Springfield. Yes, there is a park around here. So we like the awareness. We're good about it. And anytime we can get out and help out the local community and then get those relationships built, I think it's good for us, and it's good for the interns, and it's good for the people on the other side to see that there are interns that are willing to help out, and young people out there.
That's fantastic. Does anyone, I think we're coming up to about 12:45. Does anyone else who's joined us today have any other questions for Amy or Matt? We put a couple things in the chat. We have a link to Matt put a link to the landscape internship is up at the top, and Amy's put a couple of links in there too. Feel free to click on those. I will be sure once this is posted to YouTube, I'll be sure to include those links as well, and on our website. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments you want to share with Amy or Matt or anybody on the call? Well, Amy, Matt, thank you so very much for joining us today and to talk. This has been really, really inspiring. And, sometimes when, I'm kind of like down, like in the preservation weeds, so to speak, you can't see the forest for the trees. But I think what you were saying, Matt, about going out and building relationships with businesses and looking for opportunities to get out and just be visible, I think that's so very important. And I think that really gets to the heart of what we do as preservationists. And it's not just a building or just one site, it's so much more than that. And there's so much more opportunity for engagement and bringing in our communities. And so people, know what, know what we have here in Massachusetts. And you're right. I remember the first time I went to Springfield, the Springfield Armory, I think I was 14, and I was like, there's a national park in Springfield. I had the exact same reaction. But there's a lot of opportunity. And I think not just what it's truly evident that the Park Service is doing is it's not just the next generation of tradespeople, but really trying to engage on a broader and more meaningful level, just, our wider communities. And I think that's really what the heart of preservation is. So thank you so much for sharing this with us and talking about this incredible internship opportunity. If anyone's interested, click the links. We'll share those broadly. But Matt, Amy, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm sure we'll be in touch for continued, networking. And if we can do anything from Preservation Mass's standpoint, feel free to reach out. But for everybody, thank you for joining us today for this preservation conversation. This will be on YouTube in the next day or so. And thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.